So welcome to the second instance of the Services Roadshow by Base4NFDI, where currently funded basic services pitch themselves, followed by a non-public Q&A session moderated by our team. TS4NFDI, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Melina, for inviting us, and also thank you for the Base team for providing this nice second roadshow. And also thank you for all of you joining today. That is an honor to me to speak to so many people. However, let us start. And when we start, we have a small overview what I want to show you today. First one is I want to talk about a little bit about the terminology service suite. Then there will be a demo of the terminology service suite, and there will be also an outlook what will happen next. So first of all, let us have a look back. The last time when we had this roadshow, we presented or gave information about TS4NFDI, and that could be found on the previous roadshow, which is directly linked on YouTube and probably also found before this video, since this one is also bringing up to YouTube as well. However, there was also a request which was sent to us that we want to have practical examples of the basic services, and we want to focus on that. And we will focus this time on the terminology service suite, as I mentioned before. The terminology service suite, just a little background, is a library, you could say more or less, where you have React and JavaScript-based widgets, which could be integrated to other web pages. There will be a figure you probably know already from one of my talks before, and also if you watched before the first talk at the roadshow, you already spotted this one. However, these widgets could be integrated like Lego bricks to different third-party web applications and could provide terminology data to them. So there's this figure, what I mean, and what you already know. So if you want to have the correct explanation, please skip back to the last video, then you will see what's happening there. Nevertheless, in the middle, you see this orange box here. And in this orange box, you have different widgets which are part of the terminology service suite. For example, a search widget, an autocomplete widget, one for the hierarchy, for mapping, synonyms, and so on. And this widget could be implemented, as I mentioned before, to such a web page. And we did that or showed it already in one of the further talks, for example, here in preview. This part where my mouse is moving is part of a widget, which is directly, the information is directly coming from a terminology service. Same information here on the left bottom and also on the right bottom. You see information which is directly provided by this terminology service. Also here, this hierarchy view is integrated via the terminology service suite into Cabby. And that is already a little spoiler, I would say, since that in the best case, it will be presented somehow at the Cordy. That is part of the Radar team, which is currently also one of our incubators. And I will follow on that afterwards, what the incubators and how you could also get some access and some support from our side to do such stuff. Nevertheless, what I also did, and I will use that for our demo today, I gave a workshop last year in Göttingen where I used a mock-up of the RDMO tool, where I replaced the keyword input field with the autocomplete field as well from the terminology service suite. So a lot of terminology service suite and examples were shown again, but it's still not practical and how this will work. And for that, we have this demo here. Again, a screenshot, but I will move now over to this application where you could see, and we will do exactly this one here now in a live demonstration. So I set it up in repository. You will also get some access to that afterwards as well by sharing the link. It's also linked directly here on top. And you see some information, what you could expect from TS4NFDI at this event, and also what you could do if you want to exercise it from your own. So at the moment, we have this demo here. And when I enter here something, what I was showing before is that you saw normally a suggest list, but it's not there. And the reason for that is that the widget is not there yet. So when I click here, what you see is I have at least somehow some search functionality. And what you also spot when I remove that again and click here again is that, oh, there's a nice bug. So I will just refresh. What you also spot here is that you have 3 different results in the results list, and you see that you have here some keywords. but I didn't have not any information about the keyword. So I have here a data item, I have there a data item as a keyword, but I have no clue what it is. And now we're going to the, I would say, away from this nice overview of the web page. Now we will see the same stuff again here. So we have the demo HTML page, which we were spotting before. We had the search bar where I enter data, for example. And there's already a comment where stand, for example, add div autocomplete widget container from the terminology service suite here. So that is the part we will do now. So how could we do that? I will show that to you. So go back to the browser, and in the browser, oh no, we will click here to the documentation. And in the documentation, what we see, first of all, is some overview, how you could use the different widgets for example, in a React app, but it would be also possible when I scroll down a little bit, and we will do that today, the implementation in a plain JavaScript application, web application. And what you spot there, before you could use or integrate one of the widgets, you have to add this part or this part. It depends on if you want to have the files locally, you could use it here, or if you want to use the files directly from GitHub, you could use them directly there. And we will do this one. So I will copy this one. So you could just click here, and I will go back here and go to the header section. Since it was set, we should have looked to the header section. And again, here there is also in the demo, which is provided directly via GitHub already, the comment, place the lines from the TSS storybook here. So I will do that. I click enter and I paste them. And you see, I didn't need the header. It was already there. So I will remove the header and I will do it a little bit more beauty. And we'll do this in this direction. And what you also spot is in the documentation, I have a version, which is the version 2.0.1. But what you see here in my commented stuff is we're already on a version 5.0.5. So it would be possible to replace that, and I will do that now. But it would be also possible, instead of using or entering here 5.0.5, you could also go with latest, and you will have the latest version. But you would also have the risk that your application may not running anymore, since the widgets are changing in the future. But however, what you see is if you're implementing that with an old version, it will still run, since the application and the scripts are still there to use. So we had our first step now. We activated more or less and said in the JavaScript part, there are the functionality, and here we have some layouting of the widgets, which we could add there as well. So the next step would be, as we started by looking into the source code of this HTML post, is that we want to add the autocomplete widget here. So go back here, and I already created a tab where I have some stuff here. And when I enter here, for example, data, what you see is already something which should look somehow familiar to you, since that was the part I was showing in the screenshot before. So what I could do here again is I click just on show code, and I will copy this part here, since that is the part I'm interested in at the moment. So I'm going back in the HTML part. I want to have this div container. I will just copy it over, or more, I will replace it with the old search bar. If not, I would have two search bars, and I'm not interested in that. So, however, what I also could do is next to this, going back, I also have here the script again, and I'm interested in this part here, which is inside of the script. Since I already, if you saw, as you saw before in the header part that we would copy that over, I already have a JavaScript section where everything is explained. So I only need this inner part there. And now I have to go over to a second file, which is called zero-demo start query -db.js. And there's again, replace with the JavaScript part of the autocomplete widget. So we will do that. I will enter it here, and I added all the information there. At least I will copy something else, since it would be too complex to do it here on the live presentation. I will replace this part, since that is the part where the functionality from the widget is going to the database. So that is the database connection. I could explain that afterwards if there's a question, but I will not do it in a demonstration. And we are now going back to this web page. We are refreshing it. We have our autocomplete widget here. And what I also could do is I could now enter data item, for example. And when I click, for example, on this one, what you see is I'm getting only one of the data item results. And this question still is, why is this the case? And the reason you could see already the other data item, when I click it here, is annotated with a different term. It has the same label, but it has a different meaning. You also see it already more or less on the definition, which is down there. And when you hover over it, you also see the whole information. So it's a ontology class, the label is data item, you see the prefix and the short form, and you also see a description. And you could choose that there somehow. But nevertheless, it would be also nice to see it there. On that we also have a second widget, which is the metadata widget. And in this case, what I will only do is I will search for, no, I have to go on top again. There's this function which is called initialize. And inside this, there's something commented out. It's the same process as before. I copied over from the web page and put it in here. But for time reason, I already prepared everything there. So I don't have to uncomment this one, since that is the comment. But however, now everything is there. And when I'm going backwards, since why is everything there? I could also show you that there's already the div, which is the metadata widget container that was also already prepared, but not shown since display is none. And the reason for that is, so I have to refresh. The reason for that is when I click here, we'll see the data or the metadata of this widget. And what you spot there, for example, the keyword is linked in the database as data, but in the widget, it's data item. And the reason for that is when I click here, and it has to load a little bit onto B, is that there is an alternative label, which is called data. So it's possible to have a synonym there, which is somehow make confusing to you. However, what you also see is you get this hierarchy information with some more stuff as well. And you also get some more information about the terminology. And mostly of the terminology here were used, oh, sorry, that's the same one. The most annotations were used from this terminology, which is called T4FS, which stand terms for fair skills. And since we are talking here about research data, that was the idea of using them, since they are so generic that the most people could understand what I'm doing there. But it would be also possible to add their additional information from other vocabularies as well. And what you also spotted is when you search for something like data item now, in contrast of just entering data, you will get both results here. Since it is the feature you will directly get from the terminology service, since in the background they are not using, so they are not using for the search the term data item, they are using this identifier here. So this URL or IRI is used for the search. And this one is not only working for small applications, it would be also possible that I could say I'm doing that for a large set of data. I will also show you that here. I have to change it twice since I didn't created a variable before, but I'm just again in the zero demo start query database where you see these two functions. One is with a search and the other is without a search. So the other one is just a starting web page. When I refresh everything, you already see it's refreshed. We have now 42 results. And when I scroll down here, it's possible as well that you directly have access, for example, to this ontology, which was not shown before from my side or this terminology. And as you see, there's a lot of stuff which were already there at the beginning. There's also, once again, the Easter egg from the last video. So if you want to know what is the morning star, or what is the Venus, you also have the possibility to get this information here as well. So there's a huge definition this time what the Venus is or the morning star is. So feel free to have a look to this one. Coming back to the slides. As I mentioned before, there's also now a repository that you could do the same stuff as I before. And I wanted to mention there, I could also show you that once again. When you have here the overview and data, you see there is the database linked, which is sample data large, sample data. which I was showing, then is the demo start. That is the beginning without the widgets. And there's the demo end, which is directly working with the widgets since everything is implemented there. And the same is also there for the JavaScript feature. So you have the start point here where you also see the comments where you have to add something. And in the demo, there's also, or in the one demo minus end is also the endpoint you should do afterwards if you want to do that. So, but now going back to this slideshow and going to an Outlook, since I was now showing the terminology service suite. And if you're interested in doing that with us together, we also have now incubator projects. There's also an overview what kind of ideas of incubators could be there. So if you're interested in hosting terminologies from our side, if you want to set up your own terminology service, if you're adding terminology service to the API gateway, spoiler, will be there some later on in the slides and maybe also in the next video. And now you have the chance until the 20th of June to submit to us if you're interested in doing some stuff for your research. And as I mentioned before, there's an Outlook also for the TS4NFDI API gateway, since if there would be a third show of the Base4NFDI, we would love to present the API gateway to you. And there's also a question from my side. So that is, again, I will stay a little bit calm. How could the terminology service suite support other applications? And then you see this 3 different ideas, and just have in mind what we are searched for, what we used for the search, since it was not a label anymore. It was something else. And that would be the solution in this context. And then I would say thank you for the for your visit today. And are there any questions?